Loading up. Hello, adventurers. Welcome to our Sunday morning live chat. I am Dungeon Master Roy of Dark Alchemy. I am joined by my fellow Dark Alchemist, the Dead Professor Scott.
Good morning, everybody.
We're here with our forever DM Evanson.
How's it going, everybody?
And today we have the pleasure of talking with Mark, the founder of Dark Wizard Games.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show.
Cool. So, Mark, we're going to talk about your awesome Kickstarter, which is ending in, I think, 4 minutes, but there will be late pledges available. We'll get into that.
Right.
But we like to jump in with a Dungeons and Dragons story, since this is a Dungeons and Dragons channel. Can you regale us with a tale as a player or dungeon master that really stands out at some time in your long career of playing D&D?
Oh, sure. This story also goes back to, I think, sort of like what would kind of shape what would become what I would end up writing with the style of the module style I do, with sort of the brutality of my modules. But so back in the day when playing D&D all the time, one story that would stand out would be we used to have a DM that would constantly overkill everything. So you see like a first or third level character wandering around through the forest, suddenly a dragon shows up and throws an 18 die fireball at you or something. You're like, what are you doing? Did he get killed or something, resurrected? With one story, that would happen as a lot. But in one particular story, we were in some kind of battle or something at some kind of castle, and my character got killed as usual in some manner like that. And then though, I said after the character got killed, I said, okay, well, as usual, you're rolling your eyes like, oh, I'm gonna get resurrected. But I said, how about this? I said, if I roll a 20, then the ghost of my former character will show up or whatever at the right moment and then help the party, whatever, something. Sure enough, I rolled the dice, I rolled up a 20, and then the DM was like, "Argh." So suddenly I came back as the ghost suddenly to save the party. And then at that point, after saving the party, then of course he somehow figured out a way to continue to get rid of me. But anyways, that was kind of one of the funny stories where
Nice.
roll,
I like it.
Hey, let's do the roll, and then we got it. Oh, another one. Here's another one real quick. Is another one okay?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, please. We love it.
Okay, similar thing. We were playing that Dragonlance module with a Viewmaster Toad. I forget which one it was, but it's the one that has Viewmaster Toad in it. Anyways, we had got captured. I was the player. I was one of the players in this one too. And we hadn't got captured yet. We were in some bar or something, and then Viewmaster Toad comes in or something, and there was some exchange. And I just outright said, because I was young at the time, whatever, 17 or something, 16.
Yeah.
I said, I want to punch him in the face. And then the dude's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, I rolled a 20. So sadly, we punched him, yeah. And then got him. And then suddenly got captured, taken away. And then when we're in the jail, waiting for him to show me, he comes in and get a giant black eye or something.
Nice.
But another situation where we rolled a 20 for a call like that. And anyways, but that was kind of fun too. So, but anyway.
I'm a big believer in letting the dice tell the story. I say it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Let the person say something and let the dice figure it out. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But
so, how long have you been playing Dungeons and Dragons? What did you start with?
Okay, so I started back around. So I'm 56 now, but I started around 1980, I think. So I was around 11 or something with the I guess it's the Mold Bay box set, the one with the Arrow Lotus picture of the woman and the guy fighting the dragon on the cover.
Yeah,
red box.
The red one. Not the red one, but the more the purple one. That one. The one that had the counterpart where the basic set was the basic set.
Yeah.
And then the expert set that had the wizard, and then he was looking at the previous picture of the woman and the dragon.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. They just reprinted that artwork on a dice tray. I don't know if you picked that one up, Scott, at Gen Con. We had some dice tray artwork, and they put some of the classic pictures of that on these dice trays, and that's some of my favorite artwork. And I feel like, are you inspired by that artwork? I feel like a lot of your artwork does kind of harken back to that day with the stuff that you're writing.
For me,
Yeah.
you mean? Oh yes. I always loved the first edition style of everything, the artwork, the the yellow stripe era. I guess you'd call it the yellow stripe module era, whatever
Yeah.
that was at that time. You know, when you have the yellow stripe and those particular styles. The first edition AD&D, this is what it was essentially at that time. So yes, all the artwork, and then always inspired me the most. So when I do my own products now, I carefully strive to get artists that can do that particular style, because I have artists contacting me all the time, and sometimes
Yep.
I'll connect with them. Yeah, I use new artists, but I have a standard um, group of artists that I work with regularly when they're available. You know, the way it works is sometimes they're not available. They're busy on other projects, or they, you know. So there's a certain ones that I work with, and sometimes new ones. But sometimes new people approach me with their artwork, but it's just not the right style. But I'll just say, well, we'll keep you in mind in the future if something comes up that suddenly fits what we're looking for.
Let me show two things, and then we're going to jump to DM Evanson with a couple of questions about this Kickstarter. We have up here, this is modules 3 and 4 for your current Kickstarter, which I think just ended about 5 minutes ago. Late pledges are available. Links will be down below. It's Osmo and his Orb of Wondrous Power, boss villain fight for 1E and 5E, characters levels 3 to 6. And we have Archon and the Warlord. That's going to be, I'm actually blocking with my little symbol here.
Oh, it's an Archon, the Warlord of Death. It's like a Death Knight type.
Okay,
character.
I got you. And we have this old school artwork. And if we go to the
those covers were done by Justin Davis. Those two covers.
Okay, so this is the artwork we're seeing. So this is the Kickstarter. It looks like we have the two new projects, which is the Osmo and the Archon PDFs. You can get the hard soft cover books, a 4-pack of the original ones or the new ones. Plus, you're giving away a ton of PDFs with this, huh? So you not only get the new stuff, you get a ton of old stuff.
Yes, for any reward level of $10 or more, which is basically any reward level in there, you'll get the whatever the new thing was that you were getting, and then also you'll get all 45 of my previous PDFs. Now, a lot of people go, don't do that, just you got to charge more for all that stuff. I understand, but I want to get the stuff out there. Everything is really, I know that people are going to like it a lot.
Yep.
So I'd rather them not have to just guess. Just let them, get them the PDFs for a super good deal. Because a lot of times what happens is they'll get the PDFs, and most people like me, they want to collect the soft covers. So this way, if they get all the PDFs for a reasonable price, then they can, if they want the soft covers, then they can come back and get the actual soft covers without having.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Dollars on PDF.
That's a good deal.
Yeah,
that's a good deal.
Because I know they're gonna love it. You know what I mean? When we do, I'm supposed to knock on wood, but most people, once they get into it, they really like it a lot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now, because that's the way it worked. When I wrote the first book back in 2013, called Hanging Coffin Vampire Queen, I didn't know if it was going to be successful or not. I didn't know if people were going to like it. I didn't know if people were going to like my style. I didn't have a style really. I just was kind of putting it together. But fortunately, it all worked and everybody liked it. And then after it was delivered, and after a few months, the first book, 2015, then people started saying, "Hey, why don't you make another one?" And then
So this is your 27th Kickstarter now, right?
The 27th Kickstarter, and I'm up to about 40 books or so by now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see all the books here in the screen.
Now,
right?
were they all done in the same style format, where it's like a villain and it's built around that, or is it are they different?
Okay, the majority of them, they're all basically no. So so if you're referencing like the current Kickstarter, it's talking about a villain. Okay, no. The current Kickstarter is a new product line that I created this last year. For boss villains line of modules. So there's only 4 in that line of product. The other modules are all regular traditional adventures. So it's a full adventure with a boss villain and all that in the other adventure, my previous one. This new Kickstarter for those 2 books and the other 2 that you see in the 4 on this Kickstarter these are for like boss villain modules where basically it's got everything but the individual encounters and a blue map. So in other words, these boss villain books like this here have the boss villain, his detailed backstory. They've got wandering monsters tables, hooks tables, rumors tables, everything but the actual adventure. You know what I mean? That would take up the 24 encounters or something plus the blue map. You don't have that. However, the other adventures, the full size adventures that I make, those do have the blue maps and all the full rooms and the boss villain and everything else.
What made you switch over now in this particular series to go from a full adventure to a boss villain drop in that anybody can use in their adventure?
Correct. Okay. So I'm still making the full size adventure line of modules as well all the time. Right. Yeah. I've got a list of like a whole list of like 50 more of just the traditional full size adventures, in addition to these boss villain modules and my Gamma World style modules also, which I can't call it Gamma World because of copyright, but I call it they're compatible with Gamma World. They're done in first. They're called, I call it Warriors of the Wasteland series, and that's another form of post-apocalypse. So to answer your question, about these, what was the question again? How are they different?
So the original one was a full adventure, and then the current Kickstarter series is a drop in boss monster that myself, Dave, anybody can just take and be like, I need a final villain. I have my own adventure. I'm doing my own homebrew, but I'm struggling with the boss. Let me drop something in. I need a lich, and you drop the lich in.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. So the reason I created these was once again, all this stuff was kind of created out of necessity in order to keep the business kind of flowing. Okay, so I just started doing this full time around 2023. I was taking care of a elderly parent for several years, and then they passed away in 2023. And then when that happened, I was able to focus then on the business full time, making new stuff. So in order to make it work full time, you have to put out a zillion products. Okay, and unless your Kickstarter gets lucky and you make $100 grand or something, which I haven't got lucky. Okay, I've done 27 of them now, and I'm fortunate for all of them that grateful to everybody that they've all been successful. But you go on Kickstarter, it says, "Oh, first created, zero back. Oh, $250,000. Oh, that's nice."
Oh, I know. Yeah.
The person didn't back anyone, and yet they got $250,000 without backing anyone.
Yeah.
But I backed them like another project. But
why do you think that happens with some of the success? Why do you think some go viral as opposed to others? And what do you think in the current market is for first edition, fifth edition, and what you're decided to focus on and what we all love? What do you think that current market looks like for independent drop-in adventures and these one shots?
Oh, okay. Oh, real quick to quickly wrap it up for the other as to why.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason is because a full-size module takes a certain amount of time to create, because you've got to create the boss villain, you got to create the backstory, you create all the encounters, 20 encounters, 24 encounters, whatever, 30 encounters, 28 encounters, and then you got to create the blue map and all that. So that takes a long time. So in order to make this work as a functioning business, I have to be able to put out some products quicker than others. Okay, so I had to think of what can I create that won't take as long as a full-size adventure. You know what I mean? Where I have the map and this and that. So I thought, okay, well maybe a boss villain, or could be much smaller, but and then not take as long. Well, so that's what I did. I said, okay, well let me come up with a line of boss villain modules. Originally, I was just going to have them being like 8 to 12 pages or something, but of course, I went crazy, and then the
creativity flows, and all of a sudden you have more and more pages, right? Creativity flows. You're right.
Right. So, but that part was okay. It still didn't take as long, but it still costs the same to print. So, because originally I wanted them to be a little bit lower, maybe a little bit low, not as much as a regular module like I charged, but then it ended up having to be the same kind of price because they ended up being about the same amount of pages to print, which costs us. But that's okay. That's irrelevant. The point was I can still create them quicker, a boss villain quicker than a traditional module. So I have to balance it out. So I'm releasing a couple boss villain ones, then I go back to releasing a full size one, and then I go back to different. So it's because to keep the production flow going, because I'm doing this all by myself. This year alone, if you add them all up from the beginning of the year, I'll be if everything comes out on time in December with the other previous Kickstarter with the Giants module I'm doing,
Yeah.
I'll have released 22 books,
Wow.
22
Fantastic.
in this
Yeah.
year.
It's
So
awesome.
it's a breakneck. Thank you. It's a breakneck pace that I have to go at, to do it. So that's why I had to create. So a lot of stuff is just created out of necessity to keep the business flow going.
Yeah.
So that's why I created that new line of product. So to answer your question about what was the state of things, so my favorite always is first edition. Okay, that's what I grew up with. That's my favorite. Like I said, the yellow stripe era. Okay, but then a few years ago, back in 2020, I said, well, gee, this fifth edition thing, it seems like it's the big main market. Maybe I better start making the modules so that they can be a fifth edition version of them.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. But after 5 years now, I just can't pick up the audience. I thought, well, gee, fifth edition, there'll be a lot more people because it's a current audience, even though my first edition is my first, favorite. Anyways, yada, yada, yada. I created them. They look great, but I just can't seem to build the fifth edition audience. So I'm not quite sure if going forward, I'm going to continue with the fifth edition specific books. I might still make some of their combos, like the boss villains. It's actually both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on going to some conventions ourselves, so we've gone to Gen Con, a few other conventions, and we're going to the Page, the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo. We're going down there, and we do see, and even Long Island Tabletop, which is our local one on Long Island, is one of our favorites. We do see a lot of first edition and a lot of fifth edition, and we see some spattering in between, some second, some 3.5. But I feel like some people want to experience the first edition and still want to play it because that's what they grew up with. And then everybody else coming into it who's new, they're just using the current edition. They might even not even know what it was like the first and second edition stuff because, they're younger, maybe in the 18, 20, 25. They're just getting into it. So they're going to play what's out there, what's current. They have all the virtual stuff. They have the virtual books. So you do have two different markets. So I think it's honestly a smart move to have both editions because you have those first edition audience that grabs it, and then the fifth edition people can play it. The only thing I wonder personally, I mean, not trying to give advice, you actually have successful Kickstarters, if the fifth edition artwork should be different, if there should be something like that.
That's exactly what I was about to say is their eyes are drawn to different things, and when they see the old style, they may very well be like, oh, that's not the edition I play.
Yeah. Yes, and you're absolutely right. And all of my fifth edition full-size modules that were, so like when I would release a full-size module that had a first edition version and a fifth edition counterpart module.
Yeah.
I did make sure the fifth edition ones had the full page artwork.
Yeah.
The same font. They look like fifth edition books for the fifth edition ones when I would release them.
Yeah.
I have, and you can see that in that list of those all those modules. So yes, they did have the full size covers, and the right font and everything, all that stuff. It's just that for whatever reasons, I still just couldn't seem to get as many. Because you'd think, okay, there'd be a big flood of, in other words, if I get a traditional amount of like maybe 100, 150 backers that buy a soft cover yellow stripe first edition book, you'd think, okay, we're going to get 5 times that for fifth edition because it's the big current market. But instead, I get like 150 or 200 first edition people, and then like maybe 35 fifth edition people suddenly.
So the first edition people are really following you and looking for your content. You have that core audience.
Yes, because I started building an audience in 2013, and I didn't try to start building the fifth edition audience until 2020.
Okay.
And it's a different market. In 2013, there were not the number of people producing product there are now. So you became one of those fewer number of people and were able to capture audience. Whereas now it seems like there's 500 fifth edition modules on Kickstarter at any given time. So you've got that massive dilution of the market.
Yeah.
Right.
I do like the that you're able to do both. 1E and 5E though. I mean, I think that's a nice thing that you don't see every day, especially for modules being created on Kickstarter. Did you find any unique challenges when it came coming up with like villains and trying to stat them for both?
Oh, okay. Not too much because everything always would start with the first edition thing. So whenever I get a new idea for a module, it's the first thing is the first edition version. So I would just start writing that, and then all that's different is when it comes, like you said, is when it comes down to the stats.
Yeah.
Just modifying the stats being for fifth edition, and I'll also put in there a lot of times. I'm not an expert in some of the rules and stuff, but I just put in and I'll put in the DM notes. If you feel these stats are too powerful or not powerful enough, just change them as the DM. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I always tell people, you guys are more experts at it than I am, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, and I like my main thing is I like writing the adventures for everyone to enjoy. You know what I mean? But I always figure you guys are playing a lot more than me, and defer to the DM that's individual playing. Because some DMs may like super gonzo stuff, some may not like it as much, so they'll do it.
Gonzo, yeah.
But that's like if they call it as gonzo or something.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I've heard that term before, the gonzo term. Yeah, we have to make a villain called the gonzo.
Yeah,
I like that.
There you go. That's a good one. I'll have to make a villain called gonzo.
Yeah, Dave, you have any other questions over there?
So what initially inspired you to start doing these Kickstarters? Was it people telling you have great content and make something of it, or were you just looking to put it out there?
Okay, great question. Okay, so prior to the very first Kickstarter for my very first book in 2013, I had always, like I said, excuse me, the Yellow Stripe modules, that era was my favorite. I always remember playing the game and reading the books and all that and being excited about them. So then fast forward to suddenly in 2003, I think, when the D20 license came out, somewhere around then.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm suddenly in a game store and I'm looking at stuff, and suddenly I see a brand new Yellow Stripe module come out. Like, what the hell is this? And it says Goodman Games Yellow Stripe module D20. What? You can make what? You can make a brand new Yellow Stripe module somehow? What? I want to do that. How do I do that? But so at the time I started thinking, okay, well maybe I'd like to make a module at some point. So then in 2003 or so, or 2004, I said, I'm going to try to make a module. This would be cool. So I sat down and started trying to make a module back then. And I literally made every single mistake in the book. It was terrible. It wasn't a great story. It wasn't a great villain. I used like Renaissance style clip art or something from the interweb at the time. Remember, this is 2003, so there was no Kickstarter.
Yeah.
There was no real even Facebook at the time for connecting with people. You couldn't really just suddenly connect with somebody like an artist or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was hard. You had to use the Yellow Pages. So call up.
Exactly. And I made the map with everything was wrong. You know what I mean? Everything was wrong, right? I didn't realize at the time. Cool. But then I got it to the point where it was done, and I realized, hey, this is not good or something. So I didn't even bother to try to sell it. On like Drive-Thru existed, Drive-Thru RPG existed, because the original intent was to try to put it on there. But anyways, I realized at the last minute, this is terrible. This is okay. Let's just. I also not only had made an initial module, I had also tried to make like a monster book at the same time. So I made like 2 PDF only books at the time, but they were both terrible. Well, actually, the monster book wasn't bad. I had some monsters in that were fairly interesting, which I was able to put later on for my modern day monsters book, which was great, as far as the fans say. So anyway, so then fast enough, I was like, okay, well, that didn't work. So then fast forward to suddenly 2012, and I see Kickstarter.
Hello, John's. One second. Let me say hello to John's Longbox. He's one of our comic, one of our good friends, and he always says hello to me. And he's saying Jimmy just gave him a huge box of old D&D stuff. Okay, don't let that go anywhere, John. We want to take a look at the old school D&D stuff. I did not know Jimmy had it. I would have decked him for it and knocked him over. We're trying to collect that. So John runs a channel. Talk about artists. John runs a channel for comics. He has a comic book Kickstarter, Heroic Tales, and he deals with a lot of artists too. And he's going through the same kind of thing you're going through, finding artists, writing, putting everything together, Kickstarter, and all those challenges. So I just want to give a shout out to John's Longbox. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mark, but I wanted to make sure to acknowledge him.
Because I can recommend him some artists too if he needs them as well that I work with.
Great. Yeah, we can do a connection there, go back and forth. There's artists on both sides, but go ahead.
He's not map makers. Does he need map people too, or?
I don't know. Maybe he does. He does. He owns a lot of stuff. We'll talk to you about that, John. Yeah. So let's switch over to the maps because I want to pull this up here, Mark, for a second.
Oh, real quick, you were asking about things. So real quick, in 2012, when Kickstarter was invented, I said Kickstarter. I'm like, what's this? Oh, you can raise money for books. Maybe I can make a book again.
Yeah.
Only this time, do it right. So sure enough, that's what happened. I joined Kickstarter. I started running across artists and things like that, like Jeff D and Brian McCraney and all these people, Bradley McDevitt, backing their Kickstarters, exchanging the stuff, yada, yada, yada. So I came up with the idea, let me do a new module. And that's why I came up with a Hanging Coffin. I didn't know Hanging Coffin the Vampire Queen. That was my first module. So I came up with the whole, I was like, okay, I'll do a Funhouse Dungeon, Vampire Queen. And this time, though, everything was correct. I was able to just by happenstance figure out a formula, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Crazy villain, crazy Funhouse Dungeon encounters, hire a proper person, Alyssa Faden at the time to do the map. You know what I mean? Hire all the proper, use real artists, not clip art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I did all that, launched the Kickstarter. It was successful, the first book, and put the first book together. And then it was successful, and everybody liked it. And everybody said, hey, why don't you make another one? Yeah. And I was like, make another one. I just do, how am I going to do that? I just do all the kitchen sinks of the first one. I don't have plans. How am I going to do that? But I came up with the second one, Secret Machines of the Star Spawn, which was sort of an expedition to the Barrier Peaks type thing.
Okay.
And that one, then that was successful. And then people said, hey, make another one. I was like, make another one. I just do the kitchen sink of the first two.
They're cracking the whip on you, Mark. Get to work. They're cracking the whip on you to produce.
Right. But the third one, Villains of the Undercity. And at that point, after that, there was no problem. I just started making the list, and then it was easy. But initially, you can have this fear, like I had, like, how am I going to come up with that? I can't match the other two. Those were, but then I came up with them, and then the rest was history, and then all of them sold even better. I want to be better than the last one.
I want to compliment you on doing Kickstarter the right way, and I think all of us have a certain point of view. You are a creator and you're a backer. You go on Kickstarter, you back and you create. Where a lot of these companies, they're multi-million-dollar companies that doing a Kickstarter. It kind of annoys me that they're pre-funding their game. Like you've backed 27, you've created 27. That's the way it should be, and that's what crowdfunding is about.
Yes, I created 27 and I backed over 800.
Yeah.
800. Yeah. So I mean, you're in the community. You're creating. You're a Kickstarter advocate, and that I like. I think that's an awesome thing.
Yeah.
Let me switch over to the map here. I do some Photoshop. I love photography. I feel like you're using an older version here of Photoshop. Is this all your blue map?
Photoshop 7.
Was that Photoshop 7? Well, good for you. It works.
From circa 1996 or something. I think is what it was. Yeah.
Hey, it's free, right? I mean, come on. If it works, it works.
I've had the software since then, from back in the day. I just never upgraded it.
Tell us as a dungeon master, a player, and a creator, what you love about maps.
Oh, okay. So once again, with the maps and the first edition stuff, I always was partial to the blue map thing. And even as a kid, you wonder, why is it blue? Right? Why is it blue?
Why is it blue? I don't know.
You know why it was blue? There's a
reason. I do not.
Okay. The copy machines.
What's that?
The machines, the copy technology was blue.
Correct. Exactly. They were trying to make them back then so people couldn't copy them. That's why they were blue. I didn't know that until several years ago or something. I just thought, why are they blue? I always was partial to that. And then in my own maps, originally they were the blue maps. I had like Alyssa Faden do them. I had other folks do them over the years, Jacob, Blackmon, and other folks and other friends of mine were working on some. But over the last maybe 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years, but 5 years, I sort of started doing them myself. Where normally I would hire them out, but I started working on them myself and getting a little bit better and better at them. And I started with one of my modules, the Vault of the Dwarven King. My good friend Alan Chamberlain was doing the maps for me, and he suddenly brought on like a quality level that was really high suddenly as far as traditional blue maps, and it was noticed by like Captain Courageous, the YouTube reviewer, Dave Weil, and some other folks. So wow, these blue maps are so super detailed. Because now would get them really nice. And then when a few years later, when Alan had to go back and continue to work on his movie stuff, he or film it or not, map guy. You know what I mean? His main job was different. So then I started doing maps myself. Only mine were once again not as detailed. But then I took it up. I started doing it more and more detailed and learning how to do that. Now they're even more detailed than when the Alan's awesome maps were super detailed. But now I even was able to come up with getting them even more. So now they're a real higher level as far as between the two, like him and I's kind of style. To a point now where now they get noticed by people going, wait a minute, what's this? So you can see there, if you look at some of those snippets of the maps, how now I'll add certain things. Like I suddenly decide to add like a motif on the floor. So in other words, let's say you're putting a blue map room together and it's maybe, there you go. So let's say, okay, so see there's like a gears thing and that kind of circular tower thing, right? Okay. So, because the room has a bunch of mechanical gears in there, right? So how do you represent that in a map? You normally wouldn't. But I said, well, heck it, I'm going to try to represent that stuff. So I started putting down like motifs or things on the ground, like so more detailed artwork like that. Like suddenly there's gears on the room, you know what I mean? Or there's cold water suddenly, or you know what I mean? Or they're just the standard doors, trap doors, rubble. Those kind of things. So, but the key kind of breakthrough with the maps was not only making them super detailed, but then adding motifs on the ground. So, for example, let's say there was a library. Okay, a traditional blue map, well, how are you going to represent that looking down? Well, it's going to be a bunch of squares everywhere or something, right? So, we can do that. But, let's visually make it interesting by, if it's a library, so I said, let's put a motif kind of image on the ground or whatever, we'll say, from looking down at the map. So I said, well, let me get clip on like some books, like on a shelf, and I'll put that as like a motif. It's not in this particular map, but I'll put down like it as a motif on the ground. So suddenly the room, when you kind of look at it, go, oh, books, this must be the library. But then you've got your little icons in there. You know what I mean?
Well, I think this photo, so the current image for our podcast listeners we have on screen is it's a blue map of a dungeon that's kind of in a jungle. Solid blue background with all the actually squares cut out. All the rooms are labeled and numbered. And like you said, you have a motif. There'll be gears in one room, or a monkey, or a skull, or a potion bottle.
Exactly. Whatever the theme of the room is. And that kind of started with
correct.
Where you go out, like a pentagram room. Oh, there's a big pentagram room. And I said, well, let me just put a motif of a pentagram, you know what I mean, in the center of the room, and make it like a 50% opacity. So it's kind of there, but it's muted. Then you have the icons above it. And by doing that, it sort of accidentally created like its own style suddenly for my books and stuff. So all the stuff at the time, everything that's kind of unique about my book. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
Sorry about that. Everything that feels kind of unique about my books, like the style and maps, it all just kind of evolved over time. And as things came up, and was by out of necessity, like I'm saying here, suddenly, and it just sort of evolved into what it is, and then those kind of elements became like a style or like a staple of my particular line of module product.
So, Mark, I want to say that something I've noticed, and the professors are getting really good at, is that a lot of new players in the new D&D, they're starting to do a kind of a hybrid version of old school maps and modern maps, in the sense that if we had this map on an image file, the professor in his game room has an overhead projector, and he can actually shine us down onto a table. And also we can add a fog of war where you can't see. So your old school maps in the next Kickstarter could translate into, if you offered a PNG file of that map separately, that's something they could use in a virtual tabletop or in their game room on a computer screen or a TV screen. That might add a little extra bonus or a little extra value for Kickstarter, or maybe even like an upcharge that you might want to think about. Also, the tokenization, where you have like little creature tokens you can make in Photoshop. People are actually buying those tokens to have that monster to slide around the board, virtual and also in-person tabletop.
Oh, okay, interesting. Thank you on that. Good ideas on that. I'll keep that in mind.
The whole virtual tabletop is another market within 5th edition for people who are playing just virtually. Like we're all fairly old school in the way we like to play.
And we're lucky to play in person, right, Scott?
Yeah, we're very lucky that we have a group locally. I have a game room, and we get together every week and get to play. And there's a lot of D&D players who don't have that, so they get together online. So that virtual tabletop and the assets for it might be a selling point for you to kind of pull that market into your next Kickstarter.
Yeah, just an idea.
Yes, thank you for that. As it is now, when somebody buys the into the current Kickstarter, whether they bought the PDF or the physical book, they get the PDF along with the physical book as well. And in the PDF, there is the map there.
Yeah.
So they could use that file
Sure.
to do that. However, what you can't see is in the PDF that map is done at such a high resolution. You can kind of see it in some of those snippets where there was the big one overall, right? We see the whole map, but then those smaller snippets, if you look, then okay, that's one. But I think I have some other ones that are like half that size where I went even closer. So in other words, you can literally zoom in. Here we go. So see, you can literally zoom in the PDF even closer than that. You know what I mean? And it'll still super detailed suddenly for the room that you're in.
And I saw that in your town adventure where you had the whole town at that resolution, which was fantastic because you could zoom into certain parts of. Yeah, you could zoom into certain buildings on the village and say, here's the outside of the building you're looking at.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Something else about the map which is interesting. Like you do have a lot of detail. I'm pointing at my screen like people can see it. I have to describe it. So in one area we have a bunch of cracks that are a darker gray, and we have some rubble represented, and maybe some plants. If this was projected on a board, the dungeon master could declare that's difficult terrain, maybe a dexterity check, maybe half movement in any box that has a crack or a little piece of rubble, which would add some tactics and some challenges. That's I guess you could say that's a dungeon master tip. Let me put that up. Dungeon master tips using the actual map terrain to affect the players. So yeah, I mean, I love the old school maps. It's funny that the blue color of the map was a side effect of the actual printing process, but now as old school first edition players, we fall in love with that, and we want to have maps that are blue for no other reason than that's what we grew up with, and it's cool, right? It's awesome. I love it.
Oh yes, thank you, and that's good point you pointed out about having those dungeon master have those things for difficulty checks and stuff, because that's what in my head I was thinking about that. I didn't specifically say that in the books, which I probably should, but yes, I was hoping that they would do stuff like that by me adding in all those other details, like rubble is kind of blocking the hallway here, but it may not even mention that in the book at a certain page.
Yeah.
But yet it's on the map, so the DM can go in and add those kind of things as well. And real quick, as far as the blue maps, so the blue maps are traditional for our first edition book, but on the 5th edition books, I hire a guy. His name's Dimitri. Can't think of his last name, but he's in like the UK or something, and he does all my color maps. So when you get a 5th edition, one of the 5th edition versions of the books, it has the full color map as well, and it includes the PDF of the blue map in there as well in the zip file when you buy it. But so the full color maps are even more crazier because they're even more they're like done like the modern day 5th edition color map, those ones, with all the colors and super details and everything. So of my full size adventures, if they get the $10 thing, give them all the PDFs, they get all the 5th edition PDFs too. So in those files, are all the
ton of value
for their counterparts for those adventures.
John of John's Longbox wants to know if Captain America's room number 2. He's a little scared to go in there, and that might be a monster we'll not be able to beat because we see Captain America's shield in room number 2, Mark. So we're a little afraid that's an unbeatable monster on this map.
That's actually supposed to be like a Dias, you know what I mean, with a staff.
I know. We're just being a little silly.
He better be scared of Captain America in there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to fight him. So. Let me ask you about. Let me pull up this banner here a minute. It is Dark Wizard Games. Can you just give me a brief rundown of how you created Dark Wizard Games, or you kind of went over the year you created it? Why Dark Wizard, and did you make that into an actual business, LLC and stuff like that? Any challenges running a business, running Kickstarters?
Oh, okay. Thanks for that. So when I made the first module, I hadn't, back in 2013, the Hanging Coffins of the Vampire Queen, I hadn't planned on doing much more beyond that first one because I didn't know if
Yeah.
it was going to be successful or not. Or
Until the people demanded it. More modules.
Yeah, until the people started demanding it. Okay. But at the same time, when I made the first book, I had to come up with like some kind of company name or something. So on the very first book, I had just come. You know, it's hard to come up with all these things. You know, like this. You got so many things when you want to just make a book, but now you got to make a company name. You got to make all these things, a product branding thing. That Maximum Mayhem done. You know, was what the first product line was called for the full size adventures. So, well, when I did the first book, I had a name I had picked, which I didn't really like. It was the first book. Actually, the first book I had a name like a freak show game, just some kind of weird name because I had it was a freak show game. So the first, so if you're out there, so years from now when I'm dead or something, and you come across an old module that has the one of mine that has the label freak show games on it, that's actually the very first printing of that.
That's cool.
Okay.
Cool. But I didn't like that name, so on the second print, I changed it to Maximum Mayhem Dungeons was the company name at the time for the second and third book or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But then even that, I was like, well, that's too long, and that's really more the product brand of the thing because it's Maximum Mayhem Dungeons number 1, number 2.
Yeah.
So then finally around 20, it evolves. Once again, everything evolved over time. You know what I mean? Well, everything's all copywritten and all that stuff there. But then I finally around 2018. I said, well, okay, I don't want to keep calling it Maximum Mayhem Dungeons as the main company name. And I started coming up with, Dark Wizard Games. I said, okay, read Dark Wizard Games, and we'll have a logo of like a wizard looking to the side, like a rustic looking wizard. And then we'll use sort of maybe the Dark Horse font style logo, something like, or as far as the text, something like that text. And then suddenly the name was born there. And that's where, and then I was like, okay, that's a good name. I'll keep that as the name. So it evolved over to get to the point of Dark Wizard Games logo and everything. And that came out around 2017, 2018 for the final name.
Awesome.
But all this stuff has to coalesce over, it created all out of happenstance, you know what I mean? From the need to get there. So that's how I came up with that.
Any advice for somebody who said, go ahead.
Oh, and I wanted the logo to have the rustic looking wizard off the side to be reminiscent of the old TSR logo.
Yeah.
Remember where kind of guy looking to the side or something. So I want everything to, there you go. See, this is great. Yeah. So I had Alan had designed the logo. I told him, I said, we'll get a rustic looking wizard. I sent him some samples and then the thing with the thing. So he did a fantastic job. So yeah, because I wanted to feel also like I want everything to feel like first edition.
Yeah.
So I love that 90% of your stuff is already done. It just needs that extra, push from the audience. I love the high quality of. You're also, it's all made in the U.S. Got the high quality paper.
Oh yes, I use like 70-pound paper on the interior, 100-pound stock for the covers. Everything's done here in the U.S. So whereas the larger companies they outsource to other countries like China or Mexico, and I guess that's fine because of their volume. They might be
well, a good.
It's only like 200, 400, 500 books. Go ahead.
A good and lucky choice that you have been doing made in USA printing because everything going on with the tariff situation and the printing. So your Kickstarters are not as affected by that. I hope you have $1 million Kickstarter. One day you have $1 million problems, but for right now, you're supporting U.S. businesses, you're printing in the USA, and you're not worrying about supply disruption or worrying about extending your printing times. Because you have to deal with the stuff being on a boat and tariffs and stuff like that, right?
Right, exactly. Because when I want to get books printed, I can just go to my local guy. I have 3 different outlets I can go to, including 2 local people and 1 online place, and they're all terrific. But primarily, I just go to my one local guy and give it to him. He can get me proofs of a new book, literally, if they're not super swamped, get them to me within 3 days of the proof. Whereas other printing companies I used in the past that were still good, but they were much bigger and more busier, it might take them a month to get you the proof alone. That's not finished. It's just the test version, So my guy can get me the proof within 3 days, and I can put in the order, and he can get 300, 500 books done in a week. if need be.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know what the. I don't know what the. I don't.
Whereas the
I
other
don't know.
companies take a month or 6 weeks to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the price difference is for U.S. printing as opposed to overseas printing, but if on a Kickstarter you posted on there, we support U.S. businesses. These books are printed in the USA, and because of that, this book is X dollars more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I would actually be okay because your price point is already pretty low. Your books are very fair, and you're giving so much extra value too with the free PDFs. That I would be okay with paying a couple dollars more for U.S. printing with that quality paper and stuff.
Yes, exactly. Yes, because that's why. And it took a while to kind of find that price point. The average price point is about $25 per book, which is pretty fair for the thing, for the quality level you get and everything. So yes, and because everything's printed here in the USA, so I should make that a little bit more clear on there to show people.
I think so.
Yeah. And I can still update it after the fact because even though the Kickstarter ended this morning around 8, it's still taking late pledges. So anybody can come in and pledge whatever they want. Also with this one too for new people, the Kickstarter has a new feature where if you're purchasing something over $125, then they'll allow you to break it up into like 3 payments or something. Over time.
That's nice.
Yeah, so with this one, if they want, they can choose like the 4 books in one package, and then maybe just add on a signed copy to get it up to $125, and then they can 3 payments on Kickstarter.
That's cool.
I can confirm that I did that with these. I crowdfunded Star Trek Ascendancy had it's a board game, but they had a huge expansion, and the expansion was like $300, and I was like, oh man, a $300 hit. But I did it in 4 payments, and it was like $75 a payment, so it was a little less painful over the course. And now it's paid off, and I'm happy, and just waiting for that to show.
I'm glad I didn't know about that because I probably would have done that.
You would have went all in, Dave, right? And spent the $600 on the complete set, starting from scratch. I just got the expansions. Yeah. So speaking of Kickstarter, Mark, any advice for people who say, hey, including us, we might want to do one. Hey, guess what? I too want to do a Kickstarter. Would you say no, don't do it, or any advice on that?
Okay, no, I would say do it, but when you do it though, you got to really figure out beforehand what your costs are going to end up being. So we got to have a practical look at what the costs are. So, for example, when I did my first one back in 2013, when I made the first book, I was still doing computer programming job. I was a software engineer for my main career for almost 30 years. So anyways, when I did the first one, I said, okay, I got to hire these artists, do this stuff, hire all these people. I'm going to ask for $10,000 on my Kickstarter. Then I realized, wait a minute, that's too much. This was back in 2013. It's my first one. Nobody knows me. By the way, I didn't know anybody in the business. By the way, when I started, I was just a random outsider. And I still probably consider random outsider. Outsider, no connections at all. Yeah. When I first started, I met them all through Kickstarter backing their project. So so then I'm going to ask for $5,000. That's a good price. That should balance off with our fees. And then before I was going to launch, I said, wait a minute. No, let's go to 2,500. I ran the numbers again because back then, just the Jeff D cover. My first book had a Jeff D cover. Okay. Which was great. He did it. He agreed to do it. He did it. And that alone, though, at the time was like $800 or something. And unfortunately, I was able to finance that prior to the Kickstarter. From my job. You know what I mean? So long story short, so in the final one, I said, okay, $2,500 will be the goal. Because I already had paid for the cover, you know what I mean? I knew I could fit it all in with that.
Sure.
So I said, okay, 2,500, 30-day campaign, and then I ran it. Okay. And then what happened was, so remember, once again, I didn't even have a Facebook. My Facebook had like 40 people on it, which was just like my local family. Now my Facebook has like 2,500 people on the and then the Dark Wizard page has like 3,500 people on the Dark Wizard.
Good for you. Yeah, it's about grinding and growing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So when I started, I was unknown. I was nobody, which I'm still considered probably nobody compared to all the other people. But anyway,
you're somebody, Mark. You're doing good.
Okay, thank you for that. So So anyway, so I ran it. Okay, 30 days, $2,500. Now this is important for everybody that, like you said, that wants to do one. Okay.
Yeah.
So I ran it, and I'm saying that like this, like a nail biter, because it's going up by $100 a day. So suddenly by day 20, 23, 24, I was up to around $2,300 or something. So we still had like 7 days left to hit 2,500, right? Hit the goal.
Yeah.
And remember though, with Kickstarter, people can give you money, but they can also take away money if they change their mind.
Okay.
Up to the last point. In other words, when the campaign ends on day 30 or whatever it is, once it ends, you can't take away money.
Right.
You're locked in at day 30. Locked in at day 30. You're locked in at day 30, but up until they can remove that pledge.
Correct. So they can still drop down. Okay. So I was on my. This is important because I was on my way up. I was at the 2,300 or something, right? So then around day 23, when there was 7 days left, suddenly I started getting messages from people, backers, who at the time I didn't know them. Now they're good friends. You know what I mean? Back then they were unknown to me. I was unknown to them. A couple guys, 2 or 3 guys sent messages saying, "Hey, if it looks like you're not going to hit the goal, I will put in more money to push you over the line so you make the goal."
Wow. How nice is that? How supportive a community is that? That's awesome.
They just said they believed in me, you know what I mean, and what I was doing. Now, remember at the time, all I had was the cover with the Jeff D cover, just because the concept of what the module was going to be.
Yeah.
The hanging coffin module. So, oh, wow, thank you. Now, fortunately, knock on wood, they didn't have to. It automatically was able to hit 2,700 by the end. So nobody had to do that, but they offered. So, but that was a good sign. That was kind of a foreshadowing of ultimately what would happen as to later on. That it would kind of be successful as far as that. So then I hit it at 2,700, and it was successful and it completed. And then after that, on the second one, I realized, okay, when they asked for the second one, I said, okay, well, let me set the goal to be a little bit lower because I know that even at a minimum, by that time, I figured out, well, I could get a small number of print runs. I could do the kind of whole thing for under, a lower amount. So I just said $500 as a goal. Now, make sure if you're going to do it that you can do it. You know what I mean, for the thing. So I set the goal lower. Now, a lot of people do this as well. Even when you see those big ones that make like 200 grand, as this goal is $10,000. They're just kind of giving a lower number on those two. I think what's the name? There's another people that talked about that just did it as well. But anyways, so I put the goal at 500, and then after on the second one, day 1, 500, boom, funded. You know what I mean? Then it goes up from there.
Yeah.
So after that, so I just started hitting mine at 500 because then over time I realized I could start even if I only had to print like 5 books or something. The worst case, I could still do it all for around the thing at the time. So anyways, because then I could offload at the time with some of my computer job money and stuff like that. But now I'm doing this all the time as the money comes in as just nothing but the business from the books now.
So if you set it at 500, you kind of calculate how much it's going to cost you. And I guess as any business, you have sort of a pleasure pain point. So, hey, you know what? If I set at 500 and it costs me $700, I have $200 I can lose, and that's a risk you take. Just like when we go to a convention and we buy a table, a table could be $200-$300. We got to make that money. If we don't, do we have fun? Maybe. Do we like to make money? Yeah. But if we lost a little bit, well, that's kind of a learning experience. But if you set it so high, you might not fund. And then if you don't hit your goal on Kickstarter and don't fund, what happens? The whole thing is canceled then?
Nothing. Yeah.
The whole thing is canceled.
Oh, it's all nothing.
So
Okay.
If you do not hit your goal, and nobody gets charged. So if you do not,
nobody gets charged. So it's nothing. It's just okay. Start over. Rethink that.
Your name is striked from the book, and you can't ever.
Stricken from the book of grudges.
Exactly. You're stricken from yes. You basically rolled a 1 or something. At that point. So, but yes. So fortunately, also knock on wood. After that point, every single one of mine, all 27, has been successful. Not only with the goal, but then completed in.
It's awesome.
Wow. So it's
I did a buzzer shot. I threw $15 in for the PDFs to be able to play some one shots there and go over them, and then I'll order the other books. Hopefully, when I see you, Dave has a question, but I want to ask you, Mark, are you going to Page or any local events soon?
Oh, okay. Thanks for that. Yeah, Paige invited me, and I was very appreciative of that because I'm sitting like, what? All these people are inviting me to be a special guest. What the heck? There's something. Okay. So I appreciate that, but I couldn't quite make it this next year because it comes up like in January or something.
Yeah.
And you're in California too. It's a mission to go everywhere.
What's that? I'm sorry.
You're in California, so anywhere you go is a mission. You know, Philly's far.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Well, the thing was, I just financially, it's just too much for me right now.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm doing everything full time with this business, but it's still barely, it's kind of like what you're kind of like barely making it. You know what I mean? But I'm making it work.
Yeah.
That's what's important. If people like my products and stuff, to support the campaign, support my general website sales going forward. If you like my stuff, but only if you like my stuff. You know what I mean? Some people may not like my stuff. Most people seem to do. If you look at my my testimonials page, there's a lot of positive feedback I received.
I'm sure. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
So,
Dave, you had a question?
Oh yeah, these are volumes 3 and 4 that are coming out. What else could we expect in the Final Encounter series coming up?
Oh, okay. So, in the Final Encounter series, I've got 2 more planned to launch another Kickstarter probably around December, and then those will probably be fulfilled in January or so. We got 2 more boss villains. One of them is like a fire giant boss, and then another one is like a succubus boss that runs like a brothel type thing. One of them is like the way the boss villains work is it's the boss villain and then their final lair or encounter. So they kind of loosely revolve around something. So the fire giant guy will revolve around like some kind of fire giant final encounter, and the succubus one I'm working on, that's going to be involving like a bordello type of situation. So in other words, the final encounter takes place in like her like brothel type. It'll all be playfully and in good fun. But it'll revolve around something like a brothel type situation or a tavern, like a nefarious tavern type brothel type situation.
Sure.
Those are coming up for that. And then and then excuse me. And then in December, I'm finishing up another Kickstarter, which is a giant adventure, and that's a full size module on that one. So there's a giant adventure coming out in December. Yeah, and then in addition to that, there's a book of magic items, like a supplement book, and then beyond that, next year, I'm going to be releasing several more, including various ones that are pretty. So I have a whole list of like 50. I'll come up with an idea and then I'll write it down on my list. And then the list.
Well, we'll have you back on, Mark, when it's time for the next Kickstarter. We appreciate that. Professor, any questions before we head out?
Great. I love the artwork style. I love the line artwork style, especially non, just the black and white. That brings me back to the original Player's Handbook and things like that.
Oh yes, because all my traditional artists, I always pick the ones that fit that style. Also, in a lot of my art, there's a lot of brutality. Especially my earlier ones, the guys getting their arms ripped off. Even when I did in the first one, Vampire Queen, when I first met Bradley McDevitt, he was doing some of my art. I said, "Yeah, draw a Minotaur like ripping the arm off of some guy." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Are you sure you want to show that?" I said, "Yes, arm being ripped off." So okay, so he drew a picture of the guy ripping the arm off. So in a lot of the books, I'll include like over the top, like artwork, death type artwork or something for the situation. So it's one of the signatures of style of model.
Yeah, I like it. Dave, any parting questions here?
Yeah, that was it.
So let me grab my cell phone here so I can take a picture to send to everybody. Just look at the screen there, and I'll take a picture of everybody. So thank you, Mark. 1, 2, we got our pictures. I will send you information. Good luck with the Kickstarter. Like I said, we are going to download some of those PDFs and those boss fights and maybe try to live stream or do a little recording for our channel where we're actually going to fight a monster, take turns with that. And we love the maps and we love talking to you. In YouTube, links will be down below. We have Dark Wizard Games, and you can actually go to darkwizardgames.com. That's all one word, darkwizardgames.com, and the Kickstarter link will be down below. Late pledges are available, which means they can just treat it as a regular pledge for a certain amount of days. Is there a time limit on that, Mark?
There's no time limit on that. It'll probably stop after about maybe 30 days or so, because then I'll that time printing and shipping. So, but yeah, it'll be there for about 30 days.
Sounds good. And great, once again, great value. Even if you don't want the books, you can get a ton of PDFs, the new ones and the old ones. And if you want the books, signed copies are always available, and live copies are always available. Even if they reach out to you at Dark Wizard Games, even after the Kickstarter, if there's something somebody's looking for, they can contact you.
Oh yeah, definitely. They can contact me through their website, through email, and then if they want to get a soft cover on the website, if for some reason they want me to sign it or something as well, just include that in a note or something. So yeah.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody for sticking with us. Thanks for everybody in the comment section. Special thanks to John Longbox, who is an inspiration to us. The way he runs his YouTube channel kind of inspired us to do our own interviews for D&D. He's doing the comic interviews. And remember, adventurers stick together. Subscribers wanted. We're trying to grow our channel. We just hit 500. You can find Dungeon Master Evanson, our forever DM, on Instagram at DM_Evanson. That's EVENSEN. You can find us at Dark Alchemy Limited. Our links are always available. You can find our Etsy store. And please subscribe today. Help our channel grow. And Mark, have a great day. Thank you for waking up early. I know you're in California time, and you had to get up maybe a little bit early. And John, leave us with this parting shot. Don't split the party. No, always split the party. It's so much more fun when we split the party.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Awesome,
Thanks,
Mark. You can hang out for a minute in the green room. I'll give you some information, and we'll end the stream now. Hope everybody has a great Sunday and gets to play some Dungeons & Dragons this week.